Hey, welcome to the Worry Free Financial Podcast. My name is Eric Ebbers, and as always, my goal here is to help make finances worry free for you. So I'm hoping that by the time you've listened to this podcast, you'll pick up a thing or two that will help make that worry free for you. The format that I go through is I usually share current climate in the economy, what's going on today that impacts people, many people, and then what's kind of something you should start doing, stop doing, and continue doing. And so let's just go ahead and dive into what's going on in the economy right now. Unemployment is reaching really historical levels. We had an additional 4.4 million claims for unemployment this week. That brings us to 26.5 million new claims in just the last 5 weeks, with an unemployment rate hovering right around 20% is what the estimate is right now. For those of you that are unemployed, as part of the CARES Act, there's an additional $600 available in addition to normal state benefits. And one of the things, at least here in the state of Washington, extended unemployment benefits started this last week. And that's for independent contractors, self-employed, part-time workers that wouldn't have qualified for unemployment before but are now qualified. So make sure you check that out if you are among that group. Go to esd.wa.gov. That's if you're in the state of Washington, to check that out. With that many people, 4 or 5 million people every single week right now filing claims for unemployment, it's key that you don't make a mistake as you're filing your application for unemployment. Just one little mistake could push you back in terms of getting your benefits, and so I'm just going to go through a couple common mistakes, so that you don't make those same mistakes. And so one of them is just not applying right away. If you have become unemployed and you don't expect to be working immediately, I would go ahead and start going through that process. As you're doing that, make sure that you've got your information correctly. Make sure that you're going over things multiple times to make sure you're not having typo errors on your social security number, your name, your last day of work. Make sure all that stuff is accurate. That could impact whether you get your benefits right away or they get denied. So make sure you're doing that. Another mistake is assuming that just because you got denied that you don't really qualify. There may have been a mistake in your application. It may be because you're part of that group that is now getting extended unemployment benefits, and the system isn't updated for that. So if you aren't able to identify what the issue is, I would encourage you to request payment anyway and see what happens with that. And then one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that your unemployment benefits are taxable, and so you're going to want to make sure that you're either having your taxes withheld with that right away, or that you're accounting for that as you're getting ready to pay taxes at the end of the year. Tax returns were extended to be the deadline for 2019 of July 15th, so make sure that you're working towards that. Your payments still need to be made by July 15th. Even if you needed to extend that to October 15th, you still need to make those payments. As far as stimulus checks, many people have probably already received those, especially if you have direct deposit information on file with the IRS. Otherwise, it could still take several weeks or even months before you get that. If you're curious on the status, you can go to irs.gov/coronavirus to check on that status of your stimulus check. The small business loans that were part of the CARES Act, there was originally $349 billion in that fund, and that has already been depleted, and the government is adding an additional $310 billion directly to that fund. If you were or are a business owner, small business owner, and you didn't get your application approved in time or didn't get your application in time, and you need to take advantage of this loan, I would encourage you to do that as soon as those funds become available, and that should be real soon. So keep checking up on that. And in terms of just anytime there's really a downturn in the economy, it creates an investment opportunity for people. So you probably heard the phrase buy low, sell high. Well, the market has already seen kind of a bottom. I don't think that's the lowest we're going to see. In general, what I'm doing, I'm basically staying the course. I am putting the same amount into retirement savings that I've always done with the same frequency. But then I've also set aside some money to be able to invest in some some companies that I believe will be as I believe there's going to be some cultural changes, cultural norms for what the future looks like. There's some strong candidates of companies that will really benefit from this change. Those are types of companies I'm looking into to invest in, and then companies that maybe just seem to be of value. But in my personal opinion, I do not think we've hit the bottom of the low of the stock market. I don't believe that the stock market is currently reflecting the damage that's been done to the economy that could take years, maybe even up to a decade to fully recover. If you look back at the Great Recession, the housing crisis back in 2008, it took about 6 years to recover all the jobs that were lost. And we've lost more jobs with this current crisis than then. I know it's a different situation, but it could be many years before we fully recover those jobs. There will be some businesses that probably aren't able to survive this, even with some of the government support. And there may be people that take years to get back into the workforce. Unfortunately, it's just part of the reality of a crisis like this. As far as housing goes, I've said this the last couple of weeks, and I will still say it again today, is that rates are really sitting at all-time lows. If you believe that you are somebody that has good job security, a pretty good credit score, now probably is a great time to refinance. The only way to know for sure is to actually just start an application process and determine if that is the case. If you're interested, I am a mortgage originator. I will have my information in the description of this video and in the comments. But you can reach out to me, Eric at ccm.loans, if you'd like if you have questions or you want to start that application process. I'd be happy to work with you on that. And then home buying. I've had some people ask if now or in the near future there's going to be an opportunity to buy homes at a lower cost. In general, a normal recession doesn't necessarily mean home values are going to decrease. The 2008 home values decreased significantly, and that was because that recession was caused by the housing crisis. And so I think it's still too early to tell. I think there's a decent likelihood that home prices will come down some. I don't expect it to be nearly as much as what happened back in 2008. But I would say that's still a little ways away if that is going to happen at all. And then just moving on, those are the main things I have in terms of current climate. But really the theme of my start, stop, continue today is start really having a vision for your future. So you just need to start creating that vision. What do you want to do in 5 years? What do you want to do in 10 years? What do you want to do in retirement? If you don't have a vision, you're not going to hit it. An example might be like if you were to watch a Pee-wee football game and you see the little kids get the ball and they run to the wrong end zone. That's what it's like if you don't have a vision. If your target isn't the end zone that you score at, you're potentially going completely the opposite direction that you need to go. And so and there may be some things that you've got to do to lay out action plans as well. So just because you know where you're going, so you're looking at the Seahawks, you know you got to you're on the 20-yard line, and you've got to go to get to the end zone. Having Russell Wilson as your quarterback versus me as your quarterback, you're going to be more successful in reaching that goal. And so putting the right plans in place is going to be critical to that. It's not enough to just have a dream. So you may need to make some sacrifices. You may need to have a plan. This isn't going to be the last time there's going to be a financial crisis we're going to go through, and so you need to have a plan to create a budget, to build some savings so that you don't end up adding more debt through this kind of a crisis in the future, because it will happen again. Have a plan to save for retirement. Just an example for the trajectory that we're at, me and my wife, and the goals that we have for retirement. We started saving for retirement in our low to mid 20s, and we're contributing about 15% of our income towards retirement. And if we would have waited till we were 35 and had the same goal, we would have had to be contributing about 25% of our income right now. And if we had waited until we were 45 to start thinking about that and had the same goal that we have, we would have had to contribute 50% of our income. So the earlier you make that decision, the better. But you need to get on that bandwagon and start planning for your retirement. Social Security is not going to be enough for you to live the dream that I would say basically anybody has. So you're not going to just be able to magically do something in retirement just because it sounds nice. You need to be planning for that. So do what you need to do to start getting in the right direction. And you can always email me at worryfreefinancial@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to help answer questions, walk you through some planning. But that's what I would start doing. Stop doing, I would say, stop building mountains of debt that are keeping you from fulfilling your vision. Debt really is a direct barrier from you reaching your goals. Think of, if you're in the state of Washington, Mount Rainier, to hike up Mount Rainier is just a little over a half marathon, but it takes multiple days to summit, and it takes different equipment. It's more treacherous than if you were to compare it to just running a half marathon. So I actually used to be a marathon runner, and my best half marathon time was 1 hour and 37 minutes. If I haven't climbed mountains, and I don't really have that desire, but it would take multiple days for me to do that same distance if I'm having to go up a mountain. And so that's like, if you have debt, you've got this major barrier that's delaying you from reaching your future dreams. And so it's robbing you of those dreams. And so anything you can do to have a mindset of debt not being a good thing is going to be beneficial to you. Stop having that mindset that, I can afford the payments. It's still debt, and it's still robbing you from being able to do something else with that money. One of the things that I actually was able to find quite a few different articles that have been written on this is that basically credit cards can become an addiction, and actually mirrors the addictions of drugs or alcohol. I'm not trying to diminish those addictions. I know those are very real and destroy lives, but so does an addiction to credit cards. And so I'm trying to just kind of to illustrate some parallels between the two. That no one sets out to become addicted to drugs, and no one sets out with the hope that debt would become an addiction and would control their lives. But both happen. Eventually, you become so reliant on your credit cards that it literally would control your lives. You would owe most of your paycheck to lenders. Your relationships may become constrained, and repaying your debt may eventually stop you from being able to pay for your own housing or food. So it really can just build on it and become an addiction that can ruin your relationship. It can completely destroy your dreams. I would normally say, like, if you, as far as investing, Visa and MasterCard are probably amazing investment opportunities. I personally don't invest in those, and there's partly almost a moral dilemma with me in that, because I am against what that can potentially do to people. But it is probably a great opportunity for people to make money, because our culture is so debt dependent that those companies are able to succeed and make probably billions of dollars on our culture, really. So anything anything you can do to avoid debt is critical. And then continue to dream. Continue to set goals that are new. Maybe your goals change, your dreams change over time. You can make adjustments to your plan to reach those. But continue to dream, continue living. You have to find a balance between now versus the future. However, if you can't afford to do something without going into debt, the answer, in my opinion, is plain and simple: you can't afford it. So don't make decisions now to get something that is going to eliminate you from being able to accomplish your dreams in your future. And lastly, I'd say just continue to learn about how you can be smarter with your money, how you can be a better steward to help achieve the vision that you have. I hope that this has been helpful. I hope that there's some things that you've learned that can help make your finances worry-free. As always, you can email me at worryfreefinancial@gmail.com if you have any general finance questions that I can help you with in a financial coaching type of a situation. Or you can email Eric at ccm.loans if you have any mortgage, refinance, or purchase questions. Thank you, and I will see you guys next week.